she planted them once, 7 years ago, and every single summer since, without replanting, without replacing, without spending another dollar, her garden has been in full color from spring all the way through to the first frost. What if the secret to a garden that blooms beautifully for months on end is not buying more annuals every single year, but planting the right perennials once and letting them come back stronger, fuller, and more spectacular with every passing season? Welcome to Green Grow Daily, where we help you build a garden that works harder so you do not have to. But before we get into it, I want to ask you something. What is the longest your garden has ever stayed in bloom without you having to replant anything? A few weeks? Maybe a month? Drop it in the comments right now, because by the end of this video, you are going to know exactly how to have color in your garden for 5, 6, even 7 months straight without planting a single new thing. And if you are new here, welcome. Hit that subscribe button, tap the like button, and ring that notification bell right now. We post new gardening content regularly, and you do not want to miss what is coming on this channel. Okay, let's go to the video. Most gardeners spend a significant amount of money every single spring buying annual flowers. Petunias, impatiens, marigolds, begonias, planting them out, enjoying them for a few months, and then watching them die at the first frost. Then the whole cycle starts again the following year. It is expensive, it is time-consuming. And it means your garden is only ever as good as your last trip to the garden center. Perennial flowers break that cycle entirely. You plant them once, and they come back every year, often growing larger, more floriferous, and more impressive with each passing season. And the best perennials do not just come back, they bloom for extraordinary lengths of time, filling your garden with color and life for months on end without any intervention from you. Today we are going through 10 of the longest blooming perennial flowers available to the home gardener. These are plants that give you maximum color for minimum effort, season after season after season. Let's get into every single one. Number 1. Coneflower. Coneflower is one of the most beloved and most reliably long-blooming perennials in the entire gardening world. And once you have it established in your garden, you will quickly understand why it appears in virtually every list of must-have perennials ever written. Coneflower produces large, daisy-like flowers with distinctive raised, dome-shaped centers in a spectacular range of colors, including purple, pink, orange, white, yellow, and red. And it blooms continuously from early summer all the way through to early autumn, giving you a bloom period of 3 to 4 solid months without any deadheading required. It is a native North American wildflower, which means it is naturally adapted to survive with minimal water, poor soil, and temperature extremes, making it one of the most self-sufficient perennials available. Coneflower attracts butterflies and bees throughout the growing season, and its seed heads feed goldfinches and other birds through the winter months if left standing, making it one of the most ecologically generous plants in any garden. It self-seeds naturally over time, meaning your original planting will slowly spread and fill your garden bed without any effort from you. Plant coneflowers in full sun, give them well-drained soil, and step back. They will reward you with months of spectacular, wildlife-rich color every single year. Number 2. Black-eyed Susan. Black-eyed Susan is one of the most cheerful, most vibrant, and most persistently blooming perennials you can plant in a sunny garden. And its ability to produce golden yellow daisy-like flowers, with distinctive dark brown centers from midsummer all the way through to the first hard frosts of autumn, makes it one of the longest blooming perennials on this entire list. Few other perennials keep going as late into the season as Black-eyed Susan. It is often still flowering brilliantly in October and November when everything else in the garden has long since finished, making it one of the most valuable plants for maintaining late-season color and interest. Black-eyed Susan is extraordinarily tough. It tolerates heat, drought, poor soil, and humidity with remarkable resilience, and actually performs better when left alone than when fussed over. It attracts butterflies, bees, and beneficial insects throughout its long bloom period, and its seed heads provide food for birds through the winter. It spreads naturally by self-seeding and by slowly expanding its root clump, meaning a small initial planting becomes a larger and more spectacular display with every passing year. Deadhead spent flowers regularly during the season to encourage continuous new bloom production, or leave the seed heads standing at the end of the season for winter wildlife interest and natural self-seeding into the surrounding soil. Number 3. Salvia. Salvia is one of the most prolific and most season-spanning perennial flowers available, and the sheer length of time it stays in bloom, combined with the intensity and richness of its color, makes it one of the most valuable perennials for any garden seeking maximum long-season impact. Perennial salvia produces tall, upright spikes of vivid flowers in deep violet blue, purple, pink, red, and white, and it begins blooming in late spring, continues through summer, and with regular deadheading can be encouraged to produce repeat flushes of bloom all the way through to autumn. Many gardeners get 3 distinct waves of flowering from a single salvia plant in one season. Cutting it back after the first flush triggers a rapid second bloom, and cutting back again after that produces a third. This makes salvia one of the most responsive and most rewarding long-blooming perennials you can grow. Salvia is also one of the most attractive plants for pollinators. Bees in particular are drawn to salvia flowers with an intensity that makes a garden full of salvia genuinely spectacular with insect activity throughout the entire bloom season. It is drought-tolerant, sun-loving, deer-resistant, and grows beautifully in borders, containers, and cottage garden-style plantings. Cut it back hard after each flush of flowering and it will reward you with fresh growth and fresh bloom within weeks. Number 4. Catmint. Catmint is one of the most floriferous and most effortlessly long-blooming perennials available, and it is a plant that experienced gardeners return to again and again because of how reliably and how generously it performs season after season. Catmint produces a billowing, spreading mound of soft, silvery gray-green aromatic foliage covered in a haze of small, vivid lavender-blue flowers that bloom from late spring through mid-summer, a first flush of bloom so prolific and so dense that the foliage is often completely hidden beneath the flowers. Cut catmint back by half immediately after this first flush of flowering, a process that takes only a few minutes, and within 3 to 4 weeks it will have regrown and be back in full bloom for a second wave that carries through to early autumn. This cut-and-rebloom cycle can be repeated throughout the season to maintain almost continuous flowering from late spring to frost. Catmint is extraordinarily tough. It thrives in full sun and poor, well-drained soil, is highly drought-tolerant once established, and is strongly deer and rabbit resistant due to its aromatic foliage. It is also one of the most bee-attractive plants in the perennial garden. A large clump of catmint in full flower hums with pollinator activity from morning to evening. Use it as a border edging, a pathway planting, or a cascading element in a mixed perennial bed. Number 5. Coreopsis. Coreopsis, also known as tickseed, is one of the longest blooming and most sun-loving perennials available, and its ability to produce cheerful, daisy-like flowers in shades of golden yellow, lemon, orange, pink, and bicolor from late spring continuously through to autumn makes it one of the most reliably colorful plants in any sunny garden. Some varieties of Coreopsis begin flowering as early as May and continue producing new blooms all the way through to October, a bloom season of 5 months or more that very few other perennials can match. Coreopsis is extraordinarily low maintenance. It thrives in full sun, handles poor and sandy soil with ease, is highly drought-tolerant, and requires almost no care beyond occasional deadheading to keep the flowers coming. It is a native North American wildflower that attracts butterflies and bees throughout its long bloom period, and produces seed heads that feed birds in autumn and winter if left standing. Coreopsis grows into neat, compact clumps that work beautifully as border edging, in rock gardens, in mixed perennial plantings, and in any area of the garden that receives full sun. Divide established clumps every 3 to 4 years to rejuvenate the plants and encourage even more vigorous and floriferous growth in the seasons that follow. Number 6. Shasta daisy. The Shasta daisy is one of the most classic and most beloved long-blooming perennials in the entire history of garden design, and its crisp, clean white-petaled flowers with bright golden centers have been brightening gardens for over a century with a freshness and simplicity that never goes out of style. Shasta daisies bloom from early summer through to early autumn, a period of 2 to 3 months of continuous flowering that can be significantly extended by regular deadheading throughout the season. Remove spent flower heads consistently, and Shasta daisies will redirect their energy into producing new buds continuously rather than setting seed, keeping the display fresh, abundant, and beautiful for as long as possible. Shasta daisies grow into strong, upright clumps that make excellent cut flowers, bringing the same clean, cheerful energy indoors that they provide in the garden. They thrive in full sun with well-drained soil, are moderately drought-tolerant once established, and are largely pest and disease-resistant. They attract a wide range of pollinators, including bees, butterflies, and hoverflies throughout their bloom period. Divide Shasta daisy clumps every 2 to 3 years to prevent the center of the plant from dying out, a common occurrence in older clumps, and to maintain the vigorous floriferous growth that makes this perennial one of the most enduringly popular in the garden world. Number 7. Blanket flower. Blanket flower is one of the most vibrantly colored and most persistently blooming perennials available, and its spectacular jewel-toned flowers in blazing combinations of red, orange, yellow, and gold make it one of the most visually dramatic additions to any sunny garden bed. Blanket flower earns its place on this list through sheer endurance. It begins blooming in early summer and continues producing new flowers continuously until the very last frosts of autumn, giving it one of the longest bloom seasons of any perennial in this video. It is extraordinarily heat and drought tolerant. It actually performs better in hot, dry conditions than in cool, moist ones, making it one of the most reliable long-blooming perennials for gardens in warm, dry climates where many other flowers struggle to persist through the summer heat. Blanket flower thrives in full sun and poor, well-drained soil. Rich, fertile soil actually causes it to produce excessive foliage at the expense of flowers. Deadhead spent blooms regularly to encourage continuous new flower production throughout the season. It attracts butterflies and bees prolifically and produces interesting seed heads that add texture and interest to the garden in late autumn. Plant blanket flower, where it will receive full sun all day long, and it will reward you with one of the most colorful and most continuous bloom performances in the perennial garden. Number 8. Russian sage. Russian sage is one of the most architecturally beautiful and most season-spanning perennials available, and its long, airy spires of soft violet-blue flowers on silver-white stems create a hazy, ethereal quality in the garden that is unlike anything else in the perennial world. Russian sage begins blooming in midsummer and continues producing flowers all the way through to early autumn, a bloom period of 2 to 3 months that combines with its extraordinary structural presence to make it one of the most valuable long-season perennials you can grow. The silvery stems and finely cut, aromatic foliage remain attractive and garden-worthy even before and after flowering, giving Russian sage a three-season presence that most other perennials simply cannot match. It is one of the most drought-tolerant perennials in existence. Once established, it requires virtually no supplemental watering, even in the driest summers, making it an outstanding choice for low-water gardens and challenging dry spots where other plants struggle. Russian sage is strongly deer and rabbit resistant, attracts bees and butterflies in significant numbers, and pairs beautifully with other sun-loving perennials, including coneflower, black-eyed Susan, and ornamental grasses. Cut it back hard to within a few inches of the ground in early spring, and it will grow back quickly and bloom prolifically throughout the season ahead. Number 9. Penstemon. Penstemon is one of the most underrated and most rewarding long-blooming perennials available, and gardeners who discover it tend to wonder why it is not planted in every sunny border in the country. Penstemon produces tall, upright stems lined with tubular flowers in shades of red, pink, purple, white, and coral, and it blooms from late spring through summer with a profusion and vibrancy that is genuinely spectacular. Cut Penstemon back lightly after its first main flush of flowering, and it will produce a strong second wave of bloom that carries through into early autumn, giving it a total bloom season that spans 4 to 5 months in favorable conditions. Penstemon is a native North American wildflower that is extraordinarily attractive to hummingbirds. The tubular shape and vivid red and coral-colored varieties in particular are irresistible to these remarkable birds, making Penstemon one of the finest hummingbird plants available for the perennial garden. It is drought-tolerant once established, thrives in full sun with well-drained soil, and is largely resistant to pests and disease. Penstemon is relatively short-lived compared to some other perennials. Most varieties perform best for 3 to 5 years before declining, but it self-seeds freely enough that new plants are constantly establishing themselves naturally in the surrounding garden, maintaining the planting indefinitely without any effort on your part. Number 10. Agastache. We close this list with one of the most extraordinary and most underappreciated long-blooming perennials in existence, Agastache, also known as hyssop or hummingbird mint. Agastache produces tall, upright spikes of tubular flowers in vivid shades of orange, red, pink, purple, blue, and bicolor. And it blooms from midsummer continuously through to the first hard frosts of autumn, giving it one of the longest late-season bloom periods of any perennial on this list. In warm climates, Agastache can be in flower for 4 to 5 months, from July all the way through to November, making it one of the most valuable plants for maintaining garden color and interest deep into the autumn season when most other perennials have long since finished. Agastache is extraordinarily attractive to pollinators. Hummingbirds, bees, and butterflies are drawn to its flowers with an intensity that makes a planting of Agastache one of the most wildlife-active spots in any garden throughout its long bloom season. It is highly drought-tolerant, thrives in full sun and well-drained soil, handles heat exceptionally well, and is strongly deer-resistant due to its intensely aromatic foliage, which releases a beautiful anise mint fragrance when brushed against. Agastache is relatively short, lived in very cold or very wet winters, but it self-seeds freely enough to maintain itself in the garden indefinitely. Plant it at the back of a sunny border and let it light up your late-season garden with color, fragrance, and wildlife from summer all the way to frost. And those are your 10 best longest blooming perennial flowers. Coneflower, black-eyed Susan, Salvia, Catmint, Coreopsis, Shasta daisy, blanket flower, Russian sage, Penstemon, and Agastache. 10 perennials that will fill your garden with color, life, and beauty from spring to frost, year after year, without replanting, without replacing, and without the annual expense that most gardeners simply accept as normal. Plant them once. Watch them return. And enjoy a garden that keeps giving long after most people's annual flowers have come and gone. Thank you so much for watching Green Grow Daily. We are truly grateful for every one of you who tunes in, and we hope this video helps you build the kind of garden that blooms beautifully for years to come. If this video gave you value, please hit that like button. It helps more people find this content who need it. Subscribe to Green Grow Daily if you have not already, and ring that notification bell so you never miss a new upload. We have so much more coming your way, and the next video is one you are absolutely not going to want to miss. See you there. Take care, and keep growing.